So part two is actually supposed to be part one, but let me just shoot through the ideas that I'm going to explore in part two. Put some pictures that support my argument, that prove to you that, hey, this is not something that I'm making up. This is what they're saying. And then we'll get to part two. Part two is actually better than this part. I'm going to make it quick. So the craft, being crafty, witchcraft, masonry, okay, the craft. Science and religion is what they discuss. There's a connection between gypsies and Greco-Roman myths, and it's the occult. The military, the police, the sports, the physical beauty that they discuss, the arts, okay. These things all make it clear that it is beta intellect trying to suppress true religion. These guys who take this path aren't really spiritual, okay? They're not morally upright. They shouldn't be the people that children look up to. There's said to be 2 million members of Masonry in America. That's 1 in 133 people about, or 2/3 of 1% about. They're said to give $2 million a day to charity on this site that I came across. I'll put it on the screen. I'll talk about the builders, King Solomon's temple, eugenics, Francis Galton, Luciferian doctrine as the boundaries of Masonry. You know them by their works. It's not just in Pike's book, but how society actually operates and functions. Ironically, they're functionalists, pragmatists, rationalists, realists, and this other word, I slipped my mind. They have the Enlightenment era philosophies. Okay. Rationalist, realist, pragmatist, functionalist. Okay. Anyway, I'll talk about Jesus saying the Alpha and the Omega, and how people avoid the Alpha argument, and how it doesn't take a genius to see that you shouldn't cheat the martial artist out of his rightful place. They have no viable argument for the idea that they're cheating the top martial artist out of his rightful place in more than one way. Okay? You see it in terms of Hollywood is seen as the martial artists who people celebrate. We see in the Bible it says pay the workers' wages and so on and so forth. We see that there is no valid martial art competition that is in the mainstream view. The closest, and the only valid competition I've ever come across in my life was mine, an open competition to all sparring outdoors as it should be. They couldn't even keep this very basic, fundamental, instrumental, key, foundational, ancient paradigm, must-have ingredient in their systems. Okay, and they made a special emphasis on cheating people who fight the way I do. Right? They do things in terms of set stances and not skywalking. Some things can only be investigated effectively through martial arts, like the Spirit of God. And some things, some people have the upper hand in investigating, to say the least. This may very well be the definition of integrity to the West. But true integrity is making sure one's values are the highest and most morally sound that any man could possibly come up with. And this may very well involve submitting oneself to the martial art order. And I would argue, as long as I'm alive, it does. Masonry certainly seems to unite people in a sort of scientific rebellion against God, while cheating people like me out of their rightful place. Why haven't they come together to ensure that I have my rightful place and that my views are considered? How can one truly be free to think if you are suppressing the most important arguments and philosophies? When one studies this picture carefully, how can they not come to the conclusion that it is wrong to not distance yourself from eugenics? It is wrong to continue to manipulate reproduction behind the scenes for more than one reason. Certainly the fact that Albert Pike was a Mason strongly suggests that construction of society, which obviously affects reproductive activities, being done covertly, is a great detriment and obstacle to morality And certainly there comes a point when only the children of ill-gotten gains exist and humanity is no longer worth serving.